Empty heart? No. That's a sad thing to have come up on the screen. The cool, shaded confines of Opa's hut give way to hot, humid air outside. The surrounding greenery is dense and wicked-looking. Most of the plant life looks close to something I could recognize, but just different enough to leave me feeling a bit disoriented. Tav leans against the side of the hut. I realize now, he was probably close enough to hear our entire conversation. He does look like he's calmed down a bit, but seeing me puts him right back in that foul mood. It hurts to see him like this, after he was so gentle in my dream. Wait, was that even a dream?
What are you gawping at?
My heart catches in my throat. I'm pretty sure anything I say is just gonna upset him even more, but leaving him hanging doesn't feel right either. I'm sorry. A little surprise. It's always good to program in little like timed responses that actually animate for a bit. There's also like the squash and stretch.
Yeah.
Wait. Sorry, I'm just flashing back. I'm like, I think I showed Ka the tricks I was using to animate the characters in Ad Astra, and he fixated on that. Because in my Ad Astra essay, I was specifically making it so that people like do a little squash and stretch every time they change expressions to give it more impact. Because otherwise you're just watching a bunch of static things in a YouTube video that's supposed to keep people entertained. And I'm like, wait, I think we talked about this exact topic. And that's might be why it's in here. He seems legitimately surprised by the apology, but quickly tries to hide it after his initial reaction. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it seems like I'm to blame for this, so...
You're damn right you are.
I feel myself growing a bit in frustration. Look, I don't know what happened, but I want to help. He takes a step forward and thrusts a finger up towards me. He's even smaller than Opa, barely more than half my size.
I know what you're up to, demon. Your tricks won't work on me.
I'm speechless.
You're going to do everything I say until we fix this.
And how do we do that?
By getting Gash back and sending you back to hell where you belong.
That stings, but I can't really argue. If me just being here is displacing someone else, maybe that's for the best. Okay. Yeah. I owe you that much. He squints at me, as if trying to scan for signs of deception. Just take it easy, okay? I hate seeing you this way.
How dare.
Tav and I both pivot in time to see Opa emerge to join us. Something's missing.
Indeed.
Aww. That's a sprite.
Shall we then?
All of Tav's consternation melts away as he's left stammering and averting his gaze from the geezer's junk.
Opa, you're close. Huh? Sometimes, with the fact that Opa's text is gray, sometimes my brain just reads it as narration dialogue instead of actual dialogue.
Yeah. It's just because he's gray.
Because he's gray.
I can't help but stare, dumbfounded.
Oh. It's plenty toasty out today. No need to bundle up.
Judging from Tav's reaction, he seems accustomed to a bit more modesty than this.
But you were just dressed.
Oppa waves a paw dismissively.
Well, you spent too much time in the Empire, but if you insist, I'll bring the old rags along for the journey.
Tav cautiously turns back around, trying not to gaze at geriatric Gnoll nads. I reflexively want to call them Gnoll nads instead of actually saying it correctly, because so in text form, that's a lot of G's in a row. That's fun. But then you say it out loud, and that's 3 different pronunciations of G's back to back. Geriatric, Gnoll, gonads. Like, there's such a visual flow because of all the G's, and you're like, wait, no, none of them match.
What do you mean?
We'll be going with you, lad. Me and the boy have been meaning to take a trip into town anyway. Speaking of which...
The old Gnoll looks around, squinting again as he struggles to make out his surroundings.
Where is he?
He went to dump his gate after we got out of the Wombwood.
Gate. There's a word. At this point, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Could you be a dear and fetch him for me then? You know how prone he is to distraction.
Tav groans, then takes a deep breath, looking between the two of us before at last relenting.
Fine, and then straight to the village. Be ready when we get back.
He sets off in a huff again, starting to make a habit of it. I turn to look at Oppa in concern, noticing a smirk on his face as he catches my gaze wandering. As soon as I feel that prickling on my neck again, soon I feel that prickling on my neck again, getting more intense the further away Tav gets from me. Hurriedly, I hustle to catch up with him, nearly stumbling as I struggle with these big, dumb paws. The sensation fades as I get closer. I eye the leather strap on his wrist he was messing with earlier. Must be the leash to my collar. Looking it over, I figure he could probably give me some more slack if he unwound it a bit more. But I don't think asking for that would go over too well right now. Heading into the forest, we travel in silence for a time. Now that I actually have some time to think, my mind wanders to thoughts of escape. Can I really shake him? Getting
I like
too
the music
far
in this game.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's just you joked about it on the title screen, but it is a little Disney. Like it's got that sort of galumphing vibe to it, you know what I mean?
There's like an upbeatness to it that's not
It's very forward
common
moving.
in furry visual novels so much, especially without them being like whenever I do hear vaguely positive music, it's often just like it's either by the same guy every single time, or it's public domain. so it's like relatively generic. Getting too far from the leash seems to activate my collar. And trying to remove it myself, or forcing him to would probably drop me too. I could try diplomacy or deception. That's what he's already anticipating. He's so convinced I'm some sort of demonic trickster that'll go on a rampage the second I'm off his leash. I'd probably just... well, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know anything about this place. I don't have anyone or anywhere I can go to. I'm on my own, really. Same as him now. It's like when your indoor cat escapes through the front door and then just looks to the sky and freaks out.
Yeah.
Like, well, what was the point of this? What the fuck am I gonna do out here? My thoughts keep circling back to that point. He's alone because he lost someone important, and I'm the cause of that. Should I really even be thinking about escape? Shouldn't I be trying to make things right? If we can get the other guy back, then I don't know what would happen to me. Apparently my anxious thoughts have been manifesting as audible whining. I don't realize this until I spot his ears swiveling back towards me, accompanied by a soft, agitated growl. I steel myself to try and stay silent. Hopefully some peace and quiet will improve his mood. Then I can probe for more information when he's not so grouchy. I have to admit, I'm feeling a good bit better myself out here in the fresh air. This forest just smells so lively. Way better than being cooped up back in Opa's shack. I do my best to survey the sights and sounds of deep greenery, trying to build a mental map of this place. There's too much to take in. I'd get lost on my own for sure. Hopefully Tav knows where we're going. As we pass by Tranquil Stream, I chance a glance across the other side, noticing that the rich, verdant greens of the forest begin to fade into strange, violent hues. For a moment, I think I can see something moving over there. As I squint to get a better look, a strange tightness builds in my chest. This feels familiar. It feels wrong. That color. Could it be that place? The fur stands on the back of my neck, and I feel that tightness escalate into a palpable sense of dread. A sharp whistle draws my attention back to the trail, and I realize I'm nearly out of leash range. I steal one last look back across the stream. There's nothing there, but that ominous feeling remains. I shake my head to clear it, hustling to catch back up. Things are significantly more normal back on this side of the stream. I see glimpses of small creatures in the bushes and trees now and then. They look familiar enough, at least. When I make an effort to breathe through my nose, an absolute cavalcade of rich scents overtakes me. Every plant, every animal, even the paths and streams, they all smell unique. I feel familiarity with some of them, my brain dredging up simple associations like tasty, yucky, danger, or fun for some. It's like I'm digging into this body's scent memory. The most familiar smell of all, though, is his. I take a deep whiff when a breeze casts me downward of him, better understanding the nuances of the fragments I'd smelled before. I can almost feel his name on my lips when I smell him. It makes me excited, like a pet reunited with its handler after a long absence. It's hard to describe, but he smells much fresher than Opa. Maybe it's a factor of age, or maybe he just actually bathes. Whereas the other Gnoll's scent was layered with fermented herbs, Tav's feels closer to nature. I could smell the wind upon him, the gentle breeze after it rains. A little bit of fruit, I think, and a hint of flowers. It's comforting. I nearly run him over without realizing he stopped, but catch myself just in time. He's looking up at a tree whose branches hang over us, scrutinizing a cluster of fruits upon it. I can already smell how delicious they are, so without even thinking I reach up to grasp an overhanging branch and bring it lower. When I look back, he's withdrawn a leather-bound journal from somewhere and appears to be taking notes, index claw coated in ink and moving with impressive precision.
So they do grow on this side.
Look at that goofy-ass face. Oh my god. I want to squeeze this character.
He found a new boyfriend. This is another husband to add to the pile.
He plucks on the strange, crimson, pear-shaped fruits from the lowered branch, studies its shape briefly, and produces a rough sketch of it from his journal. I grab one as well, before releasing the branch. Do you catalog plants?
Not just plants. Everything I can, really. They had countless books like this back in the Empire. The wealthy even had entire rooms for storing and reading them.
Back in the Empire.
But the gnolls out here don't really have that luxury. They pass everything by maw, so it's easy for knowledge to get lost or broken over time.
He seems to get frustrated with his sketch, scribbling over it and clapping the journal shut to put away.
I guess I really shouldn't bother. It's not like this is gonna help anyone.
That dejected look of his compels me to find a way to distract him from such dour thoughts. So, these are safe to eat then? My nose is telling me yes, absolutely, what are you waiting for? But I want to make sure, just in case.
Of course, everything's safe for a gnoll.
Both these characters are interesting because, well, one of them we know isn't a gnoll, but the other one also reads as maybe not being a gnoll. Like we have some kind of vague implication about the Empire, and we don't know what the relationship is between the Empire and gnolls yet. But you don't expect a gnoll to be like, yeah, back in the Empire, the whole library and all that is like unexpected. So you're trying to, but every time you encounter gnolls, you're wondering which version you're playing with today. Like, for example, are you dealing with D&D 3.5 gnolls or Pathfinder gnolls, where it's like one of these is a universe where every gnoll is a horrifying, chaotic, evil nightmare monster creature that cannibalizes things, and then there's like woo OC flower necklace gnolls that's the biggest scrimblow, whoa, your best buddy. So there's like no specific place to expect the needle to go. I find myself already biting into the surprisingly tender morsel before I can respond, savoring its intense flavors. Very acidic, with a good mix of sweet and bitter. What do you mean?
Gnolls can eat anything. You really don't know this stuff.
I try to take offense at that, but I know I must look pretty dumb right now with how greedily I'm gulping down this delicious fruit, feeling its juices drooling down my muzzle. Like, anything? He rolls his eyes and starts walking again as he explains further. I reach up to hurriedly gather up an armful of bonus fruits from the road before he gets out of range.
Anything we can swallow, yeah. It's our gift, or whatever.
Time to start eating rocks.
Hard to starve that way. Can't get sick from most things either.
I hurry after him, dipping my muzzle down to munch on the armful of fruits I cradle as I digest this information. And these fruits. Sounds like quite the gift.
I guess, but even that gets turned against us.
What's the line from the cursed Lion King remake? A hyena's belly is never full.
Trash eaters, scabs, bottom feeders. People can be pretty cruel.
He sounds particularly hurt by those words as he repeats them, looking as if he's dredging up some painful memories. Well, sounds to me like they're jealous. Tav shrugs, trying to let it go.
Whatever, they don't matter anymore. We got out of the city to get away from all that.
We?
Me and Gash.
So they were in the city. And calibrating. Because there's so many settings where the Gnolls would not be allowed in the city at all. I bite my lip, realizing I've wandered back into uncomfortable territory for him. Why do things have to turn out like this? This isn't what I wanted. I hate this awkward silence. Maybe it would be better to lean into this rather than tiptoe around it. Hey, we'll get him back, all right? He takes a deep breath before responding, sounding worn down.
Just stop it, okay? I know you don't actually care. You don't need to pretend for my sake.
His words sting, but maybe he has a point. Even though I feel responsible for what happened with Gash, Tav is the one I'm more worried about. Maybe it's just because he's the one right in front of me. It's harder to feel for someone I've never met. Man, why am I devoting so much energy to trying to make him feel better anyway? It'd be a stretch to expect him to be thankful, given the state of things, but he could at least be civil. He probably hasn't even once stopped to think about things from my perspective. I didn't ask for this to happen. And if we do manage to get Gash back, then that means The thought drops my heart into my stomach, so I shake my head and try to change the subject. So, who's this boy we're looking for anyway?
Opa's kid.
Ah, little guy out exploring on his own?
He's grown, almost as old as us. How'd me drag you back to Opa's after you arrived?
I look down at the smaller Gnoll. Yeah, Tav definitely wouldn't have been able to pull that off on his own. I feel my ears stand up, alerted to a low rumble that passes through the ground.
Speaking of, that's probably him.
Tav leads us off the beaten path into the tree line, and I struggle to keep up with him. Hey, slow down a sec. Either he doesn't hear me, or is messing with me on purpose, as he forges on ahead anyway. His lithe little body is able to weave through the greenery at a pace I struggle to match. This is a lot of art. Damn.
Yeah, that's the thing that shocked me, was just like
a
how...
lot of backgrounds.
Yeah, how many CGs there are and stuff.
How do paint? It's hard.
I like the contrast between the painted and, for lack of a better word, the lined backgrounds as well. I believe Sunday worked on some of them. That's the sprite artist for Cape Escape. Worked on some of the pencil drawn backgrounds. I don't remember who did all the painted ones. But yeah, there's a few artists working on this.
I've got the tab open. Character art by Dead Stray Bear. Background art by Sunday's Playzone, Dirty Doozer, and Darn Hyena, which is the person that does the Hyena mod for Lethal Company, because
Ka knows everyone.
The furry fandom is the same 6 people repeating over and over again.
Ka is at the center of that too. Ka knows literally everyone. I do
Yes.
not understand it.
Concept art by Demon Skunk and Kazuma Yuma. Music by Starkeeper and Wyden Fox. So everything is done by everything, old everywhere. But yeah, so the background art is done by a mixture of you've got Sunday's Playzone, who did all of the sprites for Cape Escape. You have Dirty Doozer, who did a lot of the thumbnails over the last few months on this channel, and Darn Hyena, who makes the mod for Lethal Company, and then the concept art by Demon Skunk. Demon Skunk's also like one of the consistent people that did fan art for Cape Escape and so on, so people would have seen their art too. It's just the same 3 people repeating over and over again. It's just it's such a small community and so huge at the same time. I'm fine, I'm alive. Everything's fine. I arrive out of breath and sputtering as I shoo away the remnants of vegetation that cling to me when I finally catch up with the smaller Gnoll. He stands in a small clearing near a stagnant pond, brow furrowed as he gazes at a tangled mass of plant debris accumulated in what appears to be a natural deadfall ahead.
Why is he here?
Before I have time enough to catch my breath and ask what he means, I'm startled by the sight of a canteen flying through the air. Several wooden bowls and shredded sackcloth bags soon follow it, being tossed haphazardly by whatever currently occupies the dim hollow beneath that deadfall. Tav marches towards it, raising his voice.
Hey, drop it! Leave it!
He sounds like he's lecturing a misbehaving animal. It's time for our chaotic character, clearly. I force myself to follow after. My deep breaths to regain some stamina soon confront me with an incredibly powerful scent. It's something I've been picking up It's something I've been picking up hints of on the way here, but now I recognize it's most certainly another Gnoll. Presumably it's Opa's kid. Now I wonder if Tav's been following that scent to guide us here. I hear some back and forth between Tav and another, deeper voice as I spot the frame of a larger Gnoll standing over him, cast in the shadows of the deadfall. Tav seems to have pushed him aside, leaving him to watch as Tav starts struggling to repackage a cache of wicker baskets stashed there. I take a few deep breaths to let that new smell wash over me. These scents seem to be less distracting once I fully process them. That's probably why I haven't really noticed my own scent much, save for a few stray vapors when I reached my arms up to grab those fruits earlier. Closing my eyes to focus, it definitely smells like another Gnoll. But this one has such a powerful core musk that the other scents clinging to it can do little to disguise it. The potent, earthy aroma almost feels like I'm choking on mud, but there are strange notes to it that I find titillating. Salt and sweat layer atop to render it sharp and ripe. I get the feeling anyone can smell this guy coming, not just other Gnolls. I open my eyes when I hear the larger Gnoll responding to Tav in a tone that carries much the same gravel that Opa's did, but a younger, greasy timbre. Guessing some critters got at it while we was gone. I was just gonna bring the good bits back for you.
They're all good bits.
The big guy scratches his head and idly turns, ears lifting in intrigue as he spots me. Holy shit, he's up.
What? No, that's the demon.
Tav reaches out to stop the bigger Gnoll that's marching eagerly towards me, but gets his arm tangled in the straps attached to one of the baskets and ends up buried beneath as its contents overturn and spill out over him. Oh, it's Ka.
Yeah, it's basically cause self-insert. Scar move, basically.
Yeah. I talked about it before because I thought I spotted Ka on the cover of FAP, and like the answer was like yes and no, because I guess Demon Skunk just like kind of like almost draws that as like their default null as their like baseline. So, but that answer also just kind of leaves Ka without an OC, so it pretty much just is. Yeah, it just is. Like that is just.
Yep.
Just is his character. Like if it's what you look like in VR chat all the time, then that's probably your persona. At that point
they share a nickname. They're basically the same character. They're just legally distinct for canon purposes.
Yeah. Anyone who's met Khan in VR chat is like, yeah, that's I know this character. I've seen this person before. at the Discord meetups and whatnot.
Cause OC is interesting because, kind of as you said, like if you've been in the furry fandom for any amount of time, there is a really good chance you've seen this particular OC and this design might seem familiar to you because so many people have drawn it. But interestingly enough, on websites and image boards and stuff, it isn't tagged with Ka's OC's name. And I don't know if that's intentional or if people just think, as you said, it's like a generic hyena Gnoll character that they just don't realize has a name. But there's so much art where Ka has been like, I'll be like, oh, I really like this artist. Like, I want to get a commission from them. And Ka will be like, oh, I got a commission from them. And then show me a piece of art I've seen before. And I'm like, I had no fucking clue that was you. But also it looks exactly like you. So I don't know how I missed that. So yeah, just weirdly prolific character that has just gotten around, is formed in the ego, the collective unconsciousness of furry artists everywhere, I think.
Yeah, he's networked. He's an enduring publisher or published author. That's what you call it.
Prolific content creator.
Yeah, that has worked with artists and so on. They know a bunch of people. That's the somewhat terrifying part of Cape Escape, is he just pops up with another person in his stable. Like, this person's doing sprite art this time. Like, oh, another okay.
Yeah.
And he steps out into the sunlight. As he steps out into the sunlight, I get a better look at the Gnoll, and I'm a bit surprised by what I see. That voice definitely sounds masculine, and the shaggily bearded face sure seems to match it. But the shape of that body, though heavily set with a bit of added weight and muscle, is undoubtedly stacked in another direction. And as the golden-furred Gnoll approaches, I can confirm with confidence that he's the source of that powerful smell. Demon, huh? Always wanted to scrap with one. I shake my head and try to refocus, raising my paws out to try to signal I don't want to fight. He lets out a gleeful cackle and doubles his approach, reaching me faster than I'd expect given his hefty gait, and meeting my paws with his own, interlocking fingers to initiate a grapple. But before I can offer any resistance, I feel the clutch of that damned collar sap the life from me again, leaving me to crumple forwards at its feet from that momentary clash. Face down on the mud.
This is such a good expression.
And little bounce. Did I break it? Tav manages to free himself from beneath the toppled baggage to come to my rescue.
He's got a demon collar on. He can't hurt anyone.
The big galoot looks mortified. Not even for fun? Alright, Karlak. Tav sighs and unwinds his cord a bit to give me some slack. As I sputter and gasp for air, pushing myself up onto my hands and knees, Tav groans and retreats to the deadfall again.
Get him washed up. I'll handle the damn luggage.
I don't know if that's the best person to ask to wash people. Once I've wiped the mud out of my eyes, I can see the bigger Gnoll squatting down, extending the paw to help me up. I grunt and take it, though as I do, I worry he's just going to take advantage of the grip to paralyze me again. He doesn't, though. He helps me up to my feet and gets me steady, leaning in to sniff at me before introducing himself. I'm Stinky. But who's on first? I'm not sure if that's his name or a statement on his personal hygiene. It's exactly the joke I made. Damn it. Honestly, it seems like both. Hi? I hesitate, thrown off by that strange introduction and his continued invasion of my personal space. It takes me a moment to register that I should offer my name in return. I'm Escher. And are you about done? He halts his wandering sniffer to look up at me, smiling as he realizes what I'm talking about. At the same time, I spot Tav's ears perk up in reaction to my name, causing him to turn and take a long, hard squint at me before returning to his work with a dismissive head shake. Oh, sorry. Just never smelt a demon before. I expected... Brimstone? Yeah! Yeah, I get that a lot. Being once. Which is 100% of the time, I guess, but... Perspectives. Well, let's get you washed up then, at least a little. We Gnolls do it orally. it's just the most mortifying outcome, where you just start getting licked by Stinky, and that's the path. He guides me excitedly by the paw over to a small pond nearby. Looking up at his arm, I can see he's got a good mix of muscle and fat on his frame. He's almost as big as me, even, though still good head shorter overall.
I need a human for scale, or like a banana for scale. Like I need to see how big these characters are, because it's made a big focus on like how large they are, with Tav being half their size and him still looking just like a normal person. But I do think in settings like this, like there's always a scope moment where you're like, all right, these characters are supposed to be big, and then they're next to a person, and you're like, oh, they're 9.5 feet tall.
Exactly.
You know?
Trying to figure out, like, is this someone's like hyper Nightmare OC, or are they a Charizard? And like, oh, all these giant characters amount to being like 4.5 feet tall, dwarfed by like a teenager that catches Pokemon for like you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like you look. Nothing's more disappointing than seeing Charizard card art versus Charizard's height on the card. You're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? I'm under the assumption that the little nerd Tav is how big humans are, basically, and everyone else is just fucking huge.
Yeah,
is the takeaway. It's extreme. What's funny to me is that this kind of goes universally for a lot of furry visual novels. Not even necessarily dating simulators or ones that are explicit, but also just all of them most of the time. You so frequently play either a human or a twink, and like the implication is almost always like you are like the little average or skinny like bottom and or switch, and you want all the big men to come at you is like the appeal so much of a lot of the genre and so much of it's written as, to the point where it's genuinely startling to be like, wait, I'm the biggest character? They're like, when has that happened before? I'm trying to think back through, and I'm not great at just instantly chronicling everything, but like I just did like a lot of Let's Tries this month, and I'm trying to think of like, between those and all the other visual novels that I've played, how often are you ever the big guy in any of them? I'm waiting for the furry
rare visual novel where you're the big chubby bear, and then all you have to date are twinks that want you super bad.
Yeah. It's funny, like I remember seeing a Reddit thread that was just like, where are the furry visual novels for tops? I kneel at the edge of the pond, and he takes the opportunity to look me over from a few different angles. No horns? Barbed tail? Big old bat wings? Dang. Guess the stories were full of shit. I sigh and lean forward to dunk my head in the water and scrub a bit, pause reflexively pulling back to comb through my thick, shaggy mane. Blah. As I come back up, I pause when I notice my reflection for the first time, carefully studying my own appearance. The Gnoll looking back at me has a kind of a dumb face, to be honest. If he were part of a bigger group, I'd expect him to be the big goofy one that ends up the butt of their jokes.
He's got a little Buzz Lightyear to him.
That's a lot of chin.
Yeah.
My paws reach up to feel that face, as if to verify it's real. The nostrils flare a bit as I think about the big black nose in its center. My fingers run through the shaggy, unkempt fur of his jawline that trails back into my mane. Overall, I'd say Gash was pretty handsome in a lovable oaf sort of way. Honestly, he might have even been my type.
Furry alert. He's a furry.
But those timid, anxious eyes don't fit him. Those are mine. While they might lend him to a bit of puppy-like innocence, my uncertainty makes them tremble with weakness. I bet the others can tell from my gaze alone that I'm not him. I'm roused from my fixation by a footpaw poking at my ribs. I like the idea of there being a giant character whose eyes don't fit. It's the expectation of what a large person should be like versus like the fact that in reality, ignoring the whatever level of isekai possession things going on here, just in real life, people just become their bodies, and they're not based on their personalities or anything. Like, it's not how anything works. So it's like there's this it's a thing I never quite like got fully into, but I was trying to write something about it based on like the opening chapters of Beastars, because like I find it really compelling that like Legoshi is characterized as like this giant this giant intimidating predator character in that setting that people are afraid of, and he's expected to be a certain way to the point where other carnivores expect him to act a certain way and think that's weird when he's not. People are simultaneously afraid of him acting that way, while people are simultaneously afraid of the idea of him being threatening, while also push him to behave that way because it's like it's like alien and like almost insulting when he doesn't or something. And it's like, you just have a personality and a timidness or whatever the hell your disposition is, and then you just grow up into your body, and then it's just how you are. So when you're like a big, shy, awkward person that's afraid of most people, and then you grow to be the tallest person in your grade, that's just a thing that happens to you, and now you're just huge and get to just deal with that, which was an element of what it was like growing up like as me to an extent. And there's just I find that characterization interesting when it shows up and stuff, and it's like I burn that into elements of like the original description of Marrow and so on. Because like your body and your stature and so on can have such an impact on your people's read on you, even though that's not you. Like, you're not choosing most of the things that are happening there, and they're not personality based. So it's like a dissonance. It's frustrating. I'm roused from my fixation by a footpaw poking at my ribs. Demon dick, huh? All barbed and veiny? No. To be honest, I haven't checked, but I feel confident I do not have a demon dick. Fairly confident. How do you... What do you do with that? What do you expect it to be? He snicker cackles and reaches down to help me up again. His playful ribbing, though a bit invasive, is kind of refreshing compared to Tav's dour animosity. Now you got somebody else to talk to, thank God. I look back to the deadfall where I can still hear the little guy scrounging around.
One thing that I don't want to constantly derail. I've been trying to be very good, but one of the things I really like about this novel so far is just the expediency with which character dynamics are set up, and there's absolutely no confusion about like everyone is very efficiently characterized. We're only like 3 scenes in, and we fully understand like the dynamics and personalities of the cast that we have currently met. And I think that there's obviously like we aren't at any conflict yet outside of like Tav not like thinking that we're a demon and like that kind of world building stuff set up, like the base premise. But like we already understand now that there are like characters with different stakes, you know, like this is Opa's child, and Opa is kind of running this place inside the Wombwood or just outside of it, and he is like an older shaman character that is, you know, traditionally cultural, but then also is seemingly a little bit progressive in the sense that he believes demons can be people and doesn't want them to undergo horrible suffering. Meanwhile, it sets up this contrast with the Empire being some sort of urban environment that I can't tell if they're actually bad or good yet. I mean, obviously there's going to be conflict with us as a demon, but it seems like, given Tav's disposition, that the Empire is a place that gnolls can live and like have a normal life and study and be people. So it's like interesting that it already in such a short amount of time has set up so many individual dynamics that have room to grow but are still very clearly defined. And granted, I don't think this story is a mystery or anything like that. Like we're not running into any like slow burn plot thread things. So there is a benefit, you know, it is benefited by the fact that it is relatively upfront about a lot of things and it's not trying to build a slow burn. But I really like that. I really like that it's very quick, but it doesn't feel shallow. It doesn't feel underdeveloped, which is neat.
Yeah, it helps to like almost... you have to simultaneously like try to figure out how to like... I lost my train of thought so hard. Just completely, that's not a sentence. Listen, I've been sick. But character development is very important, and like a lot of it is like built around building scenes that are just completely informed by the characters instead of just having plot running itself and then having to like backfill the characters in.
Yeah.
Like, if the characters are just built around their dynamics and trying to figure out how best to establish those things, you can get a lot done really quickly, which is good, because if you don't, you might struggle in the future with like essentially like running with like a certain series of like almost like unstated assumptions, like having the story being written around character dynamics that you have written down in your notebook of like what their dynamics are, but maybe never really were established and communicated to the audience, and that becomes like a knock-on effect that spirals for maybe, let's say, 60 episodes of a 20-day something anyway.
I think how am I going to phrase this? I think that there's a benefit that this game or there's a thing that this game has cleverly avoided to its benefit, which is that it's very easy to set up characters in the key of certain tropes, or for lack of a better word, pre-flanderize them by assigning them personality types, right? Like it would be very, very easy for this character to be set up as like, he's the comedic relief, you know, galoot who's always stinky, and everything falls back to them being big and lumbering and wanting to fight and be stinky. But like even here in this moment, we've learned a lot about him that isn't just him like he smells bad. Like we got that like funny little anecdote, and he's definitely a goofy character already who tries to fight us. But we also get characterization in the fact that he's like, I've never smelt a demon before. which is like directly contrasting the things that Opa knows about demons. Opa seemingly has met a few of them, or at least has come in contact with them enough and their concept of them enough to have a formed philosophy about them. You know, we have Tav, who is a character that could just be mean and grumpy. He's a tsundere until he opens up. But then we've also had moments where he's worked against that character in, like, I don't want to say he's been kind to us, but he's been like, I'm going to explain this stuff to you. I'm going to talk about things because I have more interests as a character than just being grumpy towards you. It's very easy to pre-Flanderize a character when you have their set function and a narrative thought up already. And I think it takes a lot of care to make sure that they're not just always quote unquote acting in type, to make them more fleshed out and more interesting and well-rounded, rather than just feeling like tropes being put into conversations to see how those tropes bounce off of each other.
It's funny that we both leapt straight to the word Flanderization, like, because that's exactly what I was about to think of. I was thinking about that in terms of like the way that I think about developing a character, given my lack of experience anyway, but I essentially see it as like, it's a lot like when you start a drawing and you first have to start with like the form and the shape and the gesture. Like, you just have these big, messy lines that you're scribbling down, and then you then keep going back with layer after layer and have to like refine the thing and add I'll add the details and so on. And like in a similar way, like you want to hit big with like relatively loud expressions of a character's personality at the beginning. Like, then they can be like they can be like archetypes, or they can be like just something that, it just has to be something distinctive, something that specifically like, here is the big loud personality trait that separates this character from the other characters, so that they're distinguishable and you know how to like categorize and remember them and have them latch on, and you grasp what's happening in the story. But then the rest of the story is you then adding definition to that character and nuance and actually doing more with them than the original like loud thing. But
Yep.
if you start quiet and stay quiet with all the characters, then by the end you might lack memorable scenes or loud enough interactions that ever actually succeed in defining them, because you're like timidly like, everyone's nice. Here's your 6 characters, and they're all pretty nice, and they're all going on an adventure together, and this one likes astrology. And you like start trying to bolt personality traits to them afterwards, but you didn't like distinguish them noticeably. Like TJ says no swearing and gets scared on roller coasters, and like you start, and like these characters are really competitive, like in Echo. Like you do like something, because if you don't, then you're like, oh fuck, how am I gonna finish characterizing these characters when the story actually starts? Because now I'm doing something else and I never finished the characters. Oh no.